Council on Foreign Relations, where she stressed how important American leadership is at this time. Take a listen.
It is very troubling to me that we are losing the ability not only to chart our own destiny, but to have the leverage that comes from this enormously effective economic engine that has powered American values and interests over so many years.
Ambassador John Bolton joins the company now. Ambassador, welcome to the program.
Glad to be here.
May I suggest, sir, that Secretary Clinton is right. If you don't have any books, you've got no clout. Isn't that true?
Well, I think her analysis of the effect of the deficits and the longer-term consequence because of the increase of the national debt is absolutely right. And I think her dissatisfaction with President Obama's policies is on the mark, and maybe she should run for president.
Oh, now of course you raised the key issue, do you not, Ambassador? Because that was as much a political statement as it was an economic and diplomatic statement, wasn't it? Are you saying that she's putting distance quite deliberately between herself and the president's economic policies? You saying that, Ambassador John Bolton?
Well, it's not like she confides in me any more than he does, but I do think you have to ask what the purpose of that was. I think that the consequences, obviously, of running your economy into the ground can't be good for national security over the long term. But I do think it's a mistake to call it a national security threat. These economic policies are wrong, and I think should be analyzed on their merits on that ground, not calling them national security.
Are you considering running for president, Ambassador Bolton?
Well, I've been asked the question,
yes,
and again here today, and I am thinking about it because I think legitimate issues of national security should be more at the center of the national debate than they have been for the last 2 years.
I believe you've just given us some news, have you not? You are considering...
Anything to help out, Stuart.
But you are. I don't think I've not heard this before. You are considering a run for the presidency.
I think really people need to focus on this November's election, but like a lot of other people, I think once it's over, we need to take a look at this. I think President Obama, for his own purposes, has really refocused everything on his domestic policies, and our adversaries overseas are not waiting, as this latest report today by the Iranian opposition of yet another Iranian uranium enrichment facility. If that proves out to be true, that's an example of how we have just turned our eyes away from these growing threats overseas.
Would you base a run for the presidency primarily on our standing in the world, on foreign policy?
Well, if I were to do it, and that's a big if, it would be because I don't think the current administration has done enough to establish American leadership in the world, and I don't think it's done enough to keep our defenses up. I think we're in for a real period of vulnerability because of what's happened over the past 2 years.
Ambassador, I'd love to talk about this all day, but I have to move on to one other brief shining moment here. I just did an interview with a lady who'd filed a report about America and unions, accusing America of human rights violations and taking that report to the United Nations. You're a former U.S. ambassador to the UN. What do you make of this?
Well, I think that's ridiculous, of course, but I'm surprised she's not working for the Obama administration, or at least after that report, maybe she'll get a job offer herself soon enough. The fact is, we don't need to report to the United Nations. We have a democratic debate in this country. People can make their own choices, and I just think it loses sight of what real human rights violations are around the world when people talk about restraints on joining a union, which, after all, are pretty minimal in this country.
Ambassador John Bolton thinking of running for the presidency of the United States of America. Ambassador, what a pleasure, and thank you very much for being